There you go.
Helen.
Oh, directions from Helen?
Yeah, about how to take pictures. Okay, Judy and Larry and son Chris.
Chrissy always loves cameras.
Oh, it must run in the family.
My step is going to go getting over the cold. Big baggy. Oh, you have to leave? Except maybe the...
Oh. This is a picture of a post.
Oh, no.
Is this like a... Is a standoff?
Like you were yesterday.
We have some nice clothes. See, that's what we need for the party, is another one of those.
I'm gonna...
That's the size that they have there? That's the size I gave Dad.
There's one of Tutu's cameras. Oh, I'll come out with my new favorite.
He's my taxi.
Does it work?
No, we don't know. Hawaiian line.
Oh, yeah.
I captured it. Wait. Teddy bear.
I'm going to scan the stuff here late so I can review it when I get home in case there's something I could use.
It's really cool.
So we stayed there for about 7 years, and then they finally opened the
Things are so quiet. Not like the old 8
You never know when they're... Yeah.
Besides.
You know when they're getting snuck up on.
Yes.
That colorful maki sushi and everything.
I would get pictures of the food except people have just kind of glommed in there.
Good. Oh, yum. You better check out Aunt Elma's plate.
I haven't eaten for days. Did you get it for her?
Oh, yum.
Mm.
So what do the noodles mean? Is it longevity or?
Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well, look at all that stuff.
We had to come and ask you guys.
I have a problem here. The last one we turned it on.
Boy, oh boy.
In other words, think I can eat that in a week?
Ooh, I'm just... See, I'm going to look at these later and think...
Hold and wrap it with a rainbow.
Yeah, because we don't eat it too much, but I make chimichangas, Mexican food, anything with a lot of spices that you can put in it.
That'll be good.
Covers it up. Yes.
That'll be good.
It's really good.
I love chimichangas. What is that? It's a Mexican dish with shredded beef or chicken and spices. All Mexican food is pretty much the same 5 ingredients. No, but chimichangas are good.
It is good, and then you wrap it in a tortilla and deep fry it. Oh, that's why it's good.
I bet you on Zoom.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll have some week off. Which side? Right side. Yeah, she has a Zoom camera.
Yeah.
They're so quiet, so you don't even know they're...
The old ones you knew. We had a channel.
this is going.
John brought his out this morning. And we're all in our nightgowns, you know, everything, and he starts panning. I'd gotten up and I dove on his bed and stayed down, and he just beside me. I said, I don't care, I'll tell everybody it's you lying here and you shave your legs.
Did you want to be in?
I was getting the side of things. This is the good side. Or is it this side? Maybe it's this side.
The hair is really good. I love your cut.
Perfect. It's a Vietnamese lady who's married to an Italian gentleman who has a shop in the mall. It's the first time in a long time that I found somebody to do. Did you actually serve?
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's really good.
Yeah, she was
That's in the back.
perfect length.
Tough to find somebody who will do
okay.
that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, really? They used to straight.
That's like 10 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, I remember now.
You haven't seen him in pajamas in 10 years.
That's right.
He didn't have the
We made him
Oh.
wear pajamas.
That's some questions.
Oh,
So, Aunt Elma, what are your first recollections of your grandfather?
I had very few because I was 5 when he died.
You were 5?
I was 5. I just remember him being short and having a long white beard. That's all I can remember.
What's his name?
Augusto
yeah.
Diaz.
Hmm? And when did he invent the ukulele? I know you weren't
Are you
born
taking
then.
a zoom of me?
No, don't look this way.
Yeah, just pay
ignore
attention
her.
to Patricia.
Yeah.
I want to be photographed.
Oh,
We'll have Kathy stop in a minute then.
Okay. Now what was it you asked?
When did he invent the ukulele?
Uh,
Or maybe start with when they came over from Madeira.
he didn't really invent it. They had an instrument like it in Madeira. They just brought it over, introduced it to the Hawaiians.
The brahinga?
Braginga.
Braginga? I always get the G and E.
But I have a photograph in the book on Madeira that shows the early instruments, like the ukulele that they serenaded with. So they didn't invent it as the Nunes family claims that their father invented it. No, they did not invent it. It was already there. And on the mainland of Portugal, it's called cavaquinho. They have it in a museum, an ukulele in one of the folklore museums, and it's called cavaquinho. In Madeira, it's called braguinho. I think cavaquinho means little instrument. I'm not sure.
it was invented in Hawaii and then brought back to Portugal? Or Madeira?
Well, it was brought from Madeira to the Hawaiians, introduced to the Hawaiians.
Oh,
Because Nunes and my grandfather came on the same ship,
What was the name of that?
the Raven's Crag. And it arrived in 1878.
What kind of ship was it?
A sailing vessel. They have one like it in San Francisco Harbor called the, I can't remember, it sounds like Barracuda, something like that. I went on board it.
Brigantine?
I'm not sure, but a sailing vessel.
Was he married at the time?
Now that is a loaded question. Because
Unidentified.
unmarried.
He was not.
He was, that's one of the skeletons from our
Looks like
exposing it
divorce?
now. But he was unmarried when he came.
He was single.
Yeah,
I thought
but he
divorce.
had these 3 children.
Oh!
What were their names?
Their names were, Mary Augusta, Caroline, and Christine.
And Caroline was
My mother.
your mother.
Now, when he got here, after he was here a while, my uncle, Reverend De Silva, persuaded him to get married because he was living in sin. So he did.
He brought her with, they came over as a family?
Not at the same time. Reverend De Silva came later with my father on the Thomas Bell.
And Augusto's girlfriend, did she come with him on the ship
Oh,
with
yes,
the 3 children?
yes.
Oh, I see,
Uh-huh.
okay. So then they got married?
Yeah, we discovered that on the ship's log, the passenger list, says soltera, meaning unmarried woman or old maid, whatever it is. She was registered as soltera.
They could have lied just as well.
Yeah, but that's the way
But they
they were registered. And I didn't fully realize it until one day my cousin was over and she told me about it. She said, you know, there's a skeleton in the closet. And she told me about it. So. He was a troubadour.
musicians have that reputation. Oh. And who did your mother marry?
My mother married Felix Tranquata.
In what year?
I think it was 1892.
100 years ago.
Yeah.
And had just 2 children.
They had 6 children.
Oh, yeah. Give us the names, and if you can think of the oldest.
All right, the oldest one is Olga, then Aldine, and then Leo we called her, then Ernest, and then me, and then Reynold.
I thought you were the baby.
No, Reynolds.
Oh.
We're a year apart.
Was it Ernest or Reynolds that doesn't have a belly button?
Well, I didn't know that. Sorry, I didn't know that.
They showed me at your house.
Could have been
And he
Reynolds.
pulled up his belly and he said, find it. And he didn't have a belly button.
Could have been Reynolds. Ernest wouldn't show it. Yeah, must have been him.
Did he say how that happened?
No, I was just little and I was just,
I didn't know
so
that.
impressed. Wow, it just healed over, I guess, because it's just a scar, right?
What do you know of Augusta Diaz, how he lived in Madeira before he came over? Were they wealthy, poor, do you know anything about that?
No, they weren't wealthy for one thing, but he was a cabinet maker.
Did he learn that
And
from his father?
I don't know. And that's how he made ukuleles. He had skill with the woodwork.
And he was about, how old, did you know how old he was? Was 27 or something?
No, she was 27. He was 30. I forgot. It's in that article.
Oh, good.
Grandpa was a troubadour, I think. I can't remember. He was in his late 30s.
And do you know what kind of family he left behind? Were his parents still living?
No, I don't know anything about him.
Why did they leave Madeira to come to Hawaii?
Well, let me see. Well, I guess for a better living, because my father, for instance, came to escape the draft and for a better standard of living. But they were being drafted to Africa
To the
at
border.
the time.
How old was your father?
Well, look, they had their colonies, in Africa.
They called it conscription.
My father was 16 when he stowed away.
Stowed away, no family with him?
No, his brother paid the steward on the ship to get him on. He talked of going out in a rowboat, and then they put him on. Then after a few days, they discovered the stowaways, and they let them all off in the Azores. But they kept him because he could read and write, and he could help with the rations. He kept a record of, but the others were all let off in the Azores.
So your father just had one brother, or were there others, you know?
No, he had other brothers. He had one who had no arm, and he devised a way to play the violin with that arm. He played his violin, and he was a journalist for a newspaper in Madeira. And the other one was a merchant. He was a prospering merchant until the Depression came. Then he lost everything. And the other one went to South America, to British Guiana. And he started a family there. And some of the members of that family went to Brazil. But they were making liquor out of sugarcane. And they were having alcoholic problems. So they left Brazil and went to Canada. And they're in Ontario,
And these
Canada.
are the Tranquadas?
Yes. Some in Ontario and some in New York. The family tree revealed that.
What were their parents' names, your grandparents? Your dad's
Rodriguez, I guess. Because they take their parents' name. My father was Felix Rodriguez Tranqueta, so I guess that was his maternal mother's name. I don't know.
Can you tell us what your dad did when he got here?
My
At
father,
60?
he worked for a bakery on Union Street, a German bakery. And then later he worked for the YMCA. And after that, as a clerk in the U.S. Immigration Station, that was his last job.
A stowaway working at immigration.
I never thought of that.
Wonderful.
Where did he live?
When he first came, or in the later years, what part of Oahu?
Right in the center of, between Fort and Emma Street, on School Street there. They lived there for a long time.
And you were raised there? Or
There,
I remember Mom taking us there before the freeway went through, because the freeway
That's right.
went right through it, and I don't remember how old I was. I must have been maybe 11 or younger. Do you remember this? Going to see where Nana grew up?
Oh, no, I don't remember.
And it was before the freeway. I remember it being like below Punch Bowl,
Uh-huh.
basic Punch Bowl. So somewhere along there that the freeway goes through is where their home
Between
was.
Fort and Emma, that section there.
Were you raised on a higher level of living in domestic help? What?
No, we didn't have domestic help.
Just sort of getting by?
Yes, very much getting by. Was my father struggled when his first job paid only $60 a month.
Oh, boy.
But in those days, $60, I don't know what it would be now, it's a lot more.
Yeah.
But he raised his family in the beginning on $60 a month.
Your mother didn't have to work?
No, she did social work, was a volunteer.
I remember Nana telling us that your mom and dad spoke Portuguese, but that the children weren't allowed to speak Portuguese in the house?
No, she didn't think we should because we were in America and she wanted us to be thoroughly American. So they never spoke Portuguese to us.
Was your mother born here? Was she born here in Hawaii?
Yeah, no, she was born in Madeira.
Oh. And how did she get over here?
With her father, he brought 3 children with him and his mistress.
That was Augusto Diaz.
Oh, that was Augusta.
Yeah.
Oh, that's her.
Yeah.
But how did she get a name like Caroline?
Well, Carolina in Portuguese.
What does that mean?
Carolina.
Do you know what it means? Do you
No, it's just a name, Caroline, Carolina.
What, can you tell us a little bit about Nana? I know that she taught at a school in Kaneohe. I don't know what
Yes.
years or the name of the school.
At first she taught at Kahumanu,
And where
that's
was
in
that?
Makiki, on Burkania Street.
Oh, what year, approximately, what decade maybe?
I don't even know really, maybe in 1920s. And then she went to Wailai, and she was supervising teacher there for a while, Wailai. And then she went, where did you said?
Kaneohe, the school.
After that, I think she went to Kaneohe.
And what
I'm
was
not
the name
sure.
of that school?
I think it was Benjamin Parker.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
think it was that one.
She was in Manoa, too.
Right. Manoa was the last.
I remember.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I was in kindergarten and first grade when she was teaching.
Some of her students thought that I was her, and they said to Laurie, your mother used to teach us, she was mean. Because Nana was strict, so she was mean.
Oh, how cute. That's
But I never taught it, Mama. They said your mother was
I work with the grandson of the principal of that Kaneohe school.
Oh, you
Benjamin
did?
Parker. I work with the
Haley.
Yes, Haley.
Right.
I work with the grandson now.
Oh.
So Dana worked the whole time she was raising children also?
Yes. I think so.
She did, or was it before she was married, or?
No, she worked. No, that's why she had Alice to help her.
Yes, I remember
Because
Alice.
she was teaching, yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That was unusual in those days, wasn't it? To have
Well-
both parents working?
Not exactly, well, maybe.
Didn't she keep Alice for a little while? Because I
For a
remember
long
Alice.
time. She had others besides Alice, other helpers. I don't remember that.
It was one day June.
Oh.
Alice Miyake, is that?
No. No.
I'm
Different
so-
Alice.
And you worked sometimes.
Yes,
Where did
yes.
you work?
Beg your pardon,
Where did you work?
Began with an L, that school.
Oh, you were teaching
Oh,
at
that was later. I was trying to think of the first school I worked. Oh, on the islands, of course. We were sent there when we graduated. It was, there were no jobs in the city. We all were sent to the islands. Some stayed 13 years.
Oh.
But I stayed 7 years because I learned puppetry, and that was needed here in the city. They had, they didn't have anyone to teach puppetry, so I was brought here, and I taught at Wailai and Kapalama, where I had the Kapalama puppeteers. They used to play for the Art Academy and clubs and schools. And then after that I went on maternity leave. And when I returned, I went to crippled children. That's what I'm trying to do.
What did you teach when you were at the other schools before the puppetry?
I taught regular schooling, 3 hours, but in Kapalama, she took me out of the classroom and gave me shop and puppetry and dramatics. So that was my specialty then.
What did Nana teach? I meant to ask every
Primary grades,
every subject.
yeah, 3 hours.
Does everybody know about your dad and his role in the Easter Sunrise service?
That's just what I was going to ask. Yeah, I'd like the dates and how it started and the boys.
Well, the date is kind of nebulous. It's I would say between 1905 and 1910. Nobody knows for sure. But he took his Sunday school class there on Easter morning for their service. They sang hymns and they recited psalms, and he took his coffee pot and made coffee. Oh, I forgot to say that formerly the boys used to go there to smoke.
They were naughty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they told my father about it, about what a nice place it was, so he took them for the Easter Sunday service.
Kids to do the same thing.
And then somebody at the YMCA heard about it. Johnny Martin was his name. And he brought, I think, Kamehameha schoolboys there, I'm not sure. But anyway, he publicized it, and he got all the credit because he publicized it.
Always the way.
Was it? It wasn't a national cemetery at the time, was
No,
it?
oh no.
It was just a crater?
Yes, just a crater, and I was just going to say something. Oh, a man wrote a letter in the paper saying that he recalls my father and his class climbing the hill with lanterns on the lower part of Punch Bowl, of course. There's one part that's very low. And he remembers seeing them climb the hill with lanterns for their service. So I was happy to read it, but I never kept it. I wish I had kept that letter.
That's right, there was no access, easy access.
No, right, you didn't drive up.
Yeah.
And it's steep.
And there's
It is steep. We tried it. Yeah, it was
Did you really try it?
Yeah, they had ropes after a while.
Which side did you climb it on? Or which side did you climb
On
it on?
the Waikiki side.
Oh.
Waikiki end of Punch Bowl. It kind of
Yeah.
was lower down.
What, was it used for anything in particular, Coach
Oh,
Paul?
God.
I think it was an ancient Hawaiian cemetery.
Oh.
I think that's what the name means. I'm not sure, but it was a.
Oh,
I have an article on it. You have it, and I don't recall what I wrote there, but I think it's. I recall that it was an ancient Hawaiian cemetery.
That's interesting that they would let another cemetery come in there. If it was ancient Hawaiian.
Well, they objected to something. The Hawaiians objected to. I don't remember what it was that they objected to. I think it was when the Army took over after the during the war. They objected to the meeting there or something. I can't remember.
You know, speaking of the
Military
war,
just sort of took what they
What
wanted.
are your recollections of Pearl Harbor Day, you know, December 7th?
Oh, December
I know it was a
7th.
horrible time, but what do you
Yeah.
remember?
Well, I recall that I was pressing drapes for Manoa home, which was just being just almost finished. And my neighbor came running over and she said, the Japs are attacking our planes. And I said, oh no, those are maneuvers. And she said, come on, turn on your radio. And the radio announced that the Japanese are bombing Pearl Harbor. Stay in your homes. Do not go out in the street. So we were so worried about my father and mother. They lived a mile away from Makiki. So Dan drove me to get them, and we brought them over. And our student helper was so frightened. She lived in a little cottage back of our house. And she was so frightened. She asked if she could stay with us in the house, and I said, of course. Then in a few minutes we heard like a bomb burst. It was a shell that had landed in I'm down in the street, Mr. Where you live.
really?
Yeah. It had landed in an empty lot there and left a
empty
crater,
lot
but it was just like a bomb had fallen. The noise was so awful. And she hid under the bed, which we thought was funny, but that we later learned it was the right thing to do, to go under the bed when we were attacked. And,
Were you living on Domino Street at
Yes.
the time? Right across from
right
where we
across
are.
from you in that driveway.
In the driveway. Did you pull cardboard over your head?
Well, we were just too scared to do anything at all. Well, anyway, that night I received a call to report to duty that our school was being converted to a refuge for the Hickam wives and dependents. So a car came to call for me, and we just about crawled with very dim lights to Kalihi, where I taught, at Kapalama. And as we came near the school, we could hear the babies crying, and we could smell coffee. And when we entered this auditorium, there were the children's desk tables converted to beds for the babies. They were all lying there. And the women were preparing a meal. And some of them had lost their husbands and sons, but they were like in shock. We just went through the motions, in the kitchen, preparing the meal. And then two servicemen came in with a carcass of beef. And one of them said, he kicked me. But nobody was in the mood for jokes. But anyway, he dropped the carcass. And let's see what happened after that. Well, we heard a plane early in the morning, and we thought it was the enemy plane, and we just held up. We were so scared. But it gradually, the noise died down, and there was no anti-aircraft fire, so we knew it was our plane. And then after a few days, we all were assigned to enumerate the residents of that area so they could find aliens. They were interested in.
Were they searching houses or what?
Yeah, we had to go to each house, enumerate every member of the family, and record aliens. We did that for a few weeks. Then the kids came back to school, and trenches were dug outside. And when there was an air raid warning, we'd go into the trenches and come out with mud, very thick mud on our shoes. Could hardly walk with it.
Was that often?
Not very often.
The trenches were in your yard?
Yes, the yard was all dug up. And I was taken out of the classroom and put in charge of gardens. I had no knowledge of gardening, but I had to go to the university to the garden conferences they had, and I gleaned what I could from that. And then they gave me shop. Our shop teacher was drafted to Pearl Harbor. I didn't know anything about tools either, but I had to learn Maori.
How old? This was before you were married.
I was married.
Oh, you were married. So, and how old were you at this point?
Oh, I didn't have the children. I must have been late 20s or early 30s.
After December 7th, there was really no more bombs that fell, were there? After that one.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah.
There were rumors.
So there was all this preparation and all the trenches and everything, but after the 2nd, there was no more.
No.
I understand from Mom that there was this prevailing feeling that they were going to be invaded any time.
Oh, yes.
How long
Great
did you
fear.
have the blackouts and have to have your...
The length of the war.
Oh,
Yeah. Our windows had to have tar paper on them, and Dan was an air raid warden, and he had to go around look for cracks of light. Call the attention of the people who own the home.
So you're talking about 4 years or so doing that? Till it ended over in overseas?
Was it 4 years? I don't know. I thought it was 2. Was it 4? I don't know.
44, 45?
Ended in
45. 3 years then? Or 41, well, 45.
2. I thought the kids were about 2 years old when it ended.
Well, it was December, so 41.
I know your dad said they were planning on having it after the war, so that was born right after the war.
There were air raid sirens at night, and I had to get the student helper to help me carry the 2 babies down to the garage at the sandbag.
She had twins.
Yeah, just for a minute while that was going. I don't know the windows. Oh, it won't help.
It might hear one of those. When you said that you drove to pick up your parents, the first day, and you said you with very dim lights.
No, that was during the daylight. The dim lights were at night when I reported for duty.
Oh, how did you have to cover your headlights with paper?
Well, they assigned a driver to pick us all up. And I don't know if he covered his lights. I know they were very dim. He just crawled through the darkness.
So it was all dark, did you have to go house to house? Or it was all
No, we didn't go house to house until a few days. Then during the day, since the kids weren't reporting to school, we had to earn our living by going out and registering these people.
We can hear one of the battleships in the background. Trying to some of the straight.
I understood that before the war, that there were all kinds of practice procedures for bombings, and all kinds of air raids in the months preceding the actual bombing.
I don't recall that. It was a complete surprise. I don't think we...
I know the war was a surprise, but someone was telling me that they would have air raids in the 2 months before the war.
Yeah, I don't recall that at all.
How about earlier anecdote, childhood stories, or things you might remember?
Early childhood.
Yeah.
What was a typical day?
Like,
Where were you born? What part of Hawaii?
I was born in on Chrisley Lane. It was off School Street. That's where you went to see that. It's all caved under now with a new freeway.
It was called, what was the name of the street?
Chrisley Lane.
Chrisley.
C-H-R-I-S-T-L-E-Y.
A hospital? Or at
Beg your
home?
pardon?
At a hospital or at home? You were born.
Oh, that was something. I registered at the hospital early so I would have a place. Well, the night the twins were due, I called them and they said, don't come here, not unless you want to be in the hallway. We're filled, don't come here. That was Queens. No, I think that was Kapilani. So then I phoned Queens and they said, all right, we'll take you, but we're awfully crowded, but I got a room. And everything went okay. Went well.
I can't imagine what it was like when you were growing up to have such a big family and not have washing machines.
No, I remember they heated a big, it was like an oil can of water outside, and they used that for the wash and for our baths. Our Saturday baths, our daily baths were cold water. Oh, cold water, and then the Saturday baths went all day heating the hot water. And we had a wood stove in the beginning. My sisters had to clean it every week, polish it.
Polish the wood stove?
Motions from the wood. It's black.
Oh, yeah.
It's sooty. Polish it.
Did you use cabbie wood in the stove? Where did you get the wood in the stove?
So, it was cabbie wood that was available.
Was it a Portuguese neighborhood?
No, it was a mix, but it was white. And opposite us was Dr. Emerson's, and his home took up the whole block there.
Dr. Emerson?
Dr. Emerson.
Is he Emerson Street? His name
Well, maybe, because he was one of the early doctors, and his son was an artist. And they had a lovely home there with horses, carriage, and everything. And we used to earn our money during the summer picking up kiawe beans to feed the horses. We got 15 cents a bag.
Kiawe beans?
Kiawe beans, yeah. Wow. They don't give them that anymore. They found out, I think it makes the belly swell. But,
Or the tails fall off or something. Give them gas. Flatulence. Oh, that's with the ozone layer. That's right. The cow. And all the children became teachers. You have brothers and sisters?
not Olga, no, Olga was the organist. She played the piano for kindergarten when she was young, and then she was the church organist. But Aldine and Leo and I were teachers.
Wasn't Ernest?
Ernest went into social work.
Were you raised going to church every day, every Sunday?
Yes, and during the midweek,
Oh,
we had to go.
What church did you go to?
It was called Pilgrim Church, or at the time that I went, it was a Portuguese evangelical church, later called Pilgrim Church.
I think we're the only Protestant Portuguese
Yes.
on the island.
I guess that's true. All the others are Catholic.
What were your grandfather, what was his religion?
Oh, Catholic,
Oh.
and my grandmother too. They were, my mother and father were converted by my uncle, Reverend De Silva. He was only 21 then, I think, when he became a minister. And he married my mother's youngest sister. And then he somehow converted all of them, mother and father.
And that was the Pilgrim Church?
Yes, or Portuguese Evangelical at that time. Then it was Pilgrim.
I guess I was wrong. I thought that your dad, when he was 16, came over on the ship because there were other Protestant Portuguese people on the ship.
No, his cousins were on, the Diaz family. They were on, and he wanted to come so badly to the island. And since they were on, he wanted, he wanted to come all aboard, come with them. They were his cousins. They were the only, they weren't Protestant then. It was here that he became Protestant.
Did they ever talk about that ship journey? How long it took to come from Madeira to Hawaii by ship?
Yes, I think that article, I forgot, it's 4 months.
Around before the Panama Canal.
That's right. And being a
Around the Horn.
Yeah.
Being a stowaway, he had miserable conditions. I mean, your father?
Well, not as much as my mother did.
Oh.
I visited the ship that was like that one in San Francisco Bay, and the berths were like cattle bins.
Oh.
Terrible looking things. The captain had velvet upholstered cushions and a lead bathtub.
Oh my!
Shiny lead. And a little fancy dining set with red velvet cushions. But the passengers were on these awful stalls, like cattle stalls. It really did something to be on that ship and see what they went through.
Did they lose a lot of people too?
I forgot, it's in the article, they lost some babies.
Oh.
But I don't know about adults, I don't remember.
I have to laugh because so many people who claimed to be Portuguese were descended from captains of whaling ships.
Oh! Really?
You know how history sort of glosses over and embellishes itself, and everybody was descended from the captain of a whaling ship.
Well,
and I proudly state, not us.
Well, if it's a Kuna family, C-U-N-H-A, they are descendants. I wrote an article on him. He has a very interesting life, Manuel Kuna. He was a stable boy, and he became the first millionaire in the islands. And I wrote a story about him, but they didn't accept it. Now it's contemporary stuff. They don't want that anymore. At the time I wrote, they would take it. But I kept it anyway.
Oh, yeah. Take a picture because when you sell it, you won't remember what it looks like. Are you selling your TV too?
Well, I was trying to think of a way, like the stories I've been reading, they talk about some of the funny moments of the funny times.
Oh, the stories, like the old Portuguese stories, or funny
Or something that
comedy.
no, not
Comedy, make him laugh. No, he's talking about anecdotes, or are you talking about any Portuguese?
no, like a story of something that she remembers when she was a little girl. Or something about old Hawaii.
Like if you can tell us a story of something you remember about the family as a little girl, or something about old Hawaii as a little girl. Something we can pass on to our kids.
Yeah.
It's
hotter there than here.
Like ghost stories? You know,
No,
old
not
Hawaiian
a
ghost
story.
stories.
I mean, like something that happened to you that you remember that sticks out in your mind. Your first date.
Now we're getting down to the very good
Inquiring minds want to
Let's see, what did
Who
they
was
do in
it?
those days? I don't even know what to...
Well, she's thinking about her first
My
date.
first date, there was a fellow who went to St. Louis. They were Catholic, you know, I was Protestant, so it was very odd that I would be going to the Catholic boy and he would be going to the Protestant girl.
St. Louis school, high school?
Yeah, St. Louis High School.
I thought,
But oh, I was passionately in love with him. But his brother was not in favor at all. He was a bigoted Catholic. He was not in favor of the match at all. And eventually it peeled off. But I just thought he was really something. And I used to go to their rallies, and I considered a traitor because that was our worst enemy. And they used to let me wear their jerseys, you know, with a big S, the St. Louis.
oh my goodness.
Really a traitor.
And what school did you go to?
McKinley.
McKinley. Oh, Nana too.
And,
Nana too. And your mom?
and then Ray Malim lived with us for a time. And he was a star athlete at Punahou. So he used to loan me his jerseys, and it had a big O on it, Oahu, you know, where Oahu. So I was really a traitor. I'd wear O jersey and the S jersey. But he was so popular with the girls at the boarding school at Punahou. Sometimes he'd take me with him. And oh, they just, he was really, because he was a star athlete and he was good looking.
But we had some classes we had some common friends. We sort of hung out with them.
I can't remember anything funny in my childhood.
Things funny or anything like that.
She started appearing on John Carson. It took me a while to remember that was her name.
Because there was quite a gap between Nana and I.
But there were so many years
By the time I remembered anything, she was already engaged
from the time.
and then, you know, married. So I don't remember too much about her early life.
Yeah, no, it was
Neither Olga.
maybe about 8 years.
Were you a close-knit family?
Yeah, very.
What are some of the Portuguese foods that your mother used to make?
She wasn't here.
As a family?
There was one dish that we especially
But
liked.
she went to many.
It was like, it was a rice made with the same ingredients as Portuguese bean soup.
We were the
And then
same
they
person. She
put
did
rice
finish
in
later
it.
than I.
And
And she was only there for
it was called
6 months.
arroz com feijão, rice
She was
with
gone.
beans.
Then we knew she went to
It
New
was,
York.
it was very tasty.
But not for food. She was.
And then she had,
Some people are really
she didn't cook much Portuguese food, really.
And I've never written to her
The only
to say like,
thing.
you remember me?
Any traditional Portuguese foods, like on New Year's or on Christmas or
Well,
Easter, maybe?
No, we weren't in.
Not Easter,
She
but
was at
Christmas
Manfred.
morning, the Portuguese Portuguese breakfast
We were
was
only fresh.
traditional.
What was the Portuguese breakfast?
That was, that's one of my stories, the Christmas story. That was pickled pork, with toasted bread that was marinated in the same sauce.
So delicious.
And
Fried cornmeal.
It was like fried
cornmeal, right. And eggs, and Portuguese sausage, and green olives. Yes, that was it.
Portuguese sausage and green olives.
I don't remember the green olives.
Green olives were a product of Portugal then.
Stuffed.
No.
No?
I mean, can't get those now.
Yeah. Did
By
they
the
have
way, that's what I forgot today. I had stuffed olives to put around those.
so good. Did they have a traditional Portuguese drink or beverage? Was there anything?
Wine, no. Yeah, wine was taboo in our home. Yeah.
They make so much wine there, I'm surprised.
Yeah, my father loved to reminisce about that. He loved, I guess
About
he loved
what?
wine.
About making the wine? Your father did people in the family way back then make it, grow it?
Yes,
or
his
what?
family did it.
Oh, tell us
Made it.
about that.
I think the alcohol they got from the sugar cane. Or, I don't know.
Huh.
They made grape wine too.
Uh-huh.
But they had a big wine press that would crush the grapes. Wait, I'm getting mixed up now. They also stamped upon them. I guess later came the wine press. They
First
stamped
it was-
upon them. And they have a music accompaniment to it.
To the stump?
Yeah, the ukuleles and guitars and mandolins. They would play while the men stamped on the grapes. And then when they came out, they'd have purple stockings.
And just men, did women stamp the grapes too, or just...
No, just the men.
Why?
I don't know. But that was the man's job.
And didn't you say wine was taboo in your house?
Yeah.
Why? He was probably used to drinking it, wasn't he?
Yes, but my mother, became a Protestant and a very, very strict fundamentalist, so she didn't believe in wine, so nobody had wine.
For your family, like new Robitussin cough drops.
That book part of the registration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the guy, everybody knows Dad, so he recognized his name, and he said,
Oh, and to think they had a footprint, that came much later, yeah?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Who did Mary Augustus marry then?
Malin.
Oh, that's where the Malims come in.
Yeah, and he
Oh.
became the superintendent of the post office, superintendent of mail.
And who was the wife? What was your great-grandmother's name?
My great-grandmother.
Mary, Augusta Diaz's wife?
Oh,
Well, that's your grandmother. Grandmother.
I don't know her family.
Oh, just her name?
Her name.
Her name was Rosalina Nobrega.
No, Briga.
Well, we have another skeleton.
And they had
Wow.
3 children, these 3 children, before they decided to get married.
Get married. Interesting.
At that time, gosh,
It
she would have
wasn't
been
done.
burned at the stake.
Yeah, it wasn't done back then. That too is hereditary.
No, it's called tradition.
Thank heaven someone is keeping up tradition.
But I don't think anybody knew. They were assumed they were husband and wife. Nobody knew until somebody blew it. And then when he went to look at the ship's passenger list.
We found something. That's what we found then in the census. Do you remember? I said, there's this name, no wife, and there were 3 children.
Really?
I was mixed up and I said grandpa, but it wasn't. I bet it was these 3.
Oh.
Remember, Kristen came home with coffee, but I asked her, I said, but there was no wife, so it must not have been him. I was thinking it was grandfather.
Oh,
We were looking at
goodness.
the side. She has a
Oh.
And I said,
It's
something's
recorded.
wrong. Yeah.